Welcome to the Bestie Perspective, a raw, unfiltered space where we explore the mind, body, spirit connection. Every week, we dive into personal growth, holistic healing, and life's ups and downs to inspire, support, and remind you you're never alone on this journey. Welcome back to the Bestie Perspective podcast. And if you're new here, welcome to you too. Today's episode is super juicy because the three of us, Hannah, Lauren, and Eileen, are going to take you on a walk down memory lane as we discuss our paths through bedside nursing, our stories of burnout, and what we would tell our bestie who's in the thick of it or just starting her nursing dream job. We are going to do our best to help you all listening out there build awareness and compassion around recognizing and treating burnout. Even if you're not a nurse, there's still a chance that you might recognize part of yourself in the stories that we tell today. We see you moms, teachers, leaders, and caretakers, so we hope you find value in today's episode too. We're diving into this episode today with a fun little game. I have 3 statistics for you all, and the game is going to go a little bit like The Price is Right, where you have to guess the number, but instead of guessing the price on an item, you're going to be guessing about the numbers for nursing burnout statistics. Does that make sense?
Let's go!
I'm ready.
Alrighty. The first question is, on average, what % of nurses under 25 years old report experiencing burnout?
I would think this one was high, but yeah, Lauren, you guess first.
Okay. I'm going to be a little bold to say 75%.
I was kind of close. I was going to say 70.
Okay. And the second question is, what % of nurses leave the profession within their first 2 years?
I would say 50%.
I'll go 60.
Okay. The third and final question is, how much does it cost a hospital, on average, to hire and train one new nurse?
Ooh. Okay. I'm going to guess like $200,000. Maybe
Well,
that's too high. I don't know.
Dang, they're expensive. Well, I mean, I feel like years ago, it may have been around 40,000. So maybe it's higher now, but I'll go with 40,000.
I feel like all my guesses are so high.
I think I did lowball all of them. Yeah.
I love this. Okay, so it's so great to hear y'all's raw numbers out here. I think this is going to shock you guys as much as it did for me, and your guesses weren't too far off. Here are the true statistics that I gathered from the American Nurses Association, nurse.org, as well as Becker's Hospital Review. You ready?
Okay, ready.
Yes.
I better win. No.
Number 1. On average, 69% of nurses under 25 reported experiencing burnout.
I won!
Oh my gosh. Look how close you were with your 70%. But wow, though. I mean, that is over, like a good amount over half.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're not surprised, but those that have not been in it, that might shock you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that gives some background information into some of those headlines you see on the news of nursing shortages. What does that actually mean? What's happening?
They'd be tired.
And honestly, even hearing you say this right now, I'm like, because this was under 25. Right?
Under 25.
It makes me feel so much better that 69%, like so many other people were feeling that way under 25 like I was.
Right. I wasn't insane and I wasn't, being ridiculous. This was not okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And number 2, 50% of new nurses leave the nursing profession within their first 2 years.
I am on a roll today.
You are.
Yes. And that is according to recent data from nurse.org. They say that it's due to high stress levels, sleep disturbances, moral injury and a diminished sense of belonging, I felt like that was such a small list. I was like, there's so much more. I was thinking there's so much more that goes into nurses leaving the profession within the first 2 years. So even more so, like,
you mean the reasons that they gave? Yeah, I can agree. There's way more reasons.
Yeah.
Wow. But still, like, that's 1 in 2.
Right.
1 in every 2 nurses leaves after their first 2 years, which also doesn't surprise me because I look at us and the fact that we're all best friends and we were all nurses and we all
ain't
left.
there no more. But did y'all not see that? I saw the rotation. Like, oh, they're leaving? Oh, okay. Oh, hi. Nice to meet you, new person. I saw the in and out.
Yeah. I saw that turnover too. And even after I left bedside, I noticed other people who I went to nursing school with posting on Facebook pages like, hi, I'm a nurse. I'm so done with bedside. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, who work remotely or who loves their job? What are you doing? They were done too. And I just saw that happening. They're just dropping like flies.
Yeah. It's kind of, it almost makes me so curious almost if I could go back and look at or contact everyone that was in my nursing class and even see, hey, are you still working as a nurse or bedside or at all or doing something different? And I would honestly be curious to know how many, even in my own personal class, are no longer.
There's always that one nurse that's been there for 35 plus years. And it's like, more power to you, girl. Like, more power to you, man, if you're a guy.
Oh, my goodness. Are you guys ready for this final stat?
Okay, let's see. Did I win again?
Come on, let me pull through. No, just kidding.
The cost range to hire and train new nurses is between $28,000 to $52,000 per nurse.
Wow.
You just knocked it out of the park.
I need to go on the price.
Eileen killed it.
Yeah, you did.
I'm going on the Price is Right, guys. I missed my calling.
I think, even just right now, I'm reflecting a little and thinking, maybe it's some of my own personal bias, actually, with how traumatic nursing ended up being for me in the end that makes me even choose a higher number because I'm like, gosh, it has to be 75%. It has to be 60%.
But I love how your 200,000, you were a high valued nurse, my dear.
That's right.
Yes. And when the article I read posted these numbers, they also included the math of how much it costs annually per hospital for how many nurses they were training. And that number is $3.6 to $6.5 million every year per hospital. Let me repeat that. $3.6 to $6.5 million annually per hospital is spent on hiring and training new nurses. And when you multiply that by how many nurses are leaving, it's wild.
I was just thinking that. I was like, oh my gosh, if they're losing half, take half of that number.
To me,
that's 1.5 to 3 million, right?
I can feel my husband's financial heart breaking, the finance guy that I married. Because in his mind, and currently in my mind right now, I'm thinking, why not try to change the system? That would probably save so much more money. But instead, it's just, habit? Oh, that's just how it is, high turnover. We're just going to spend the money and train new people rather than say, can we adjust to make this a place, an environment where people want to stay? It's silly and it's so inefficient cost-wise.
But somehow it makes more sense to waste millions of dollars per hospital.
Keyword waste.
Okay.
It's a crisis. Like, the burnout itself is a crisis to the individual nurse because you're completely out of energy and your profession is to give when you have nothing left to give. And then it's also a financial crisis in this case. So, and it's not just in nursing. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, burnout is hitting people across so many roles. teachers, first responders, caretakers, managers, you name it. And so that's why this episode is so close to our hearts. We wanted to tell our stories and hopefully help someone else out there feel seen or even just a little less alone. And to kick it off, I thought it'd be fun to go back where it all started for us, our beginnings in nursing. Because before the burnout, there were dreams, excitement, and purpose. So let's start there and go around sharing what drew each of us into nursing in the first place. When did y'all first realize you wanted to become a nurse?
When I was really little, I wanted to be a teacher. But while growing up and going to the doctor's office, I was just intrigued by the medical field in general. So I knew I wanted to take care of people in some way. And at some point, one of my pediatricians actually said, well, if you're a doctor, you're also a teacher. I was like, huh. That was such a good point because I was always learning something new at the doctor's office as a kid. So at some point at a school age level, I switched my desire to be a teacher to becoming a doctor. Then later in life, I had an emergency experience that was very scary. But it made me realize just how important and hands-on nurses are. At the time, I was actually considering pre-med and I was on the path to being a doctor until this very ER experience. I actually had internal bleeding and the doctor said this was something very random. It was in my early 20s and I had a vessel in my right ovary rupture. It was actually before my period. Sorry if this is TMI, but all the engorgement and whatnot in that whole area of a woman becomes very vascular. And he said it was just a very fluke thing. He said it's random and he doesn't see any future complications. So that meant I had no signs of endometriosis or anything like that. And even after that experience, I was fine. But back to the story, I had so much more interaction with the nurse. I could see how doctors are very in and out and they make you feel like just a number. I knew that I wanted that one-on-one interaction with patients like I got with that nurse. I saw her the most. I saw her relaying everything to the doctor. She was the weaver of the whole experience, and the doctor was the one to just give final confirmation, and put orders in, is what it felt like. Being the eyes, the ears, the one doing all the assessment was so lucrative to getting the appropriate care at that hospital. So just seeing that firsthand made me want to switch majors that day. And so after my recovery, I did.
Wow.
I didn't know about that story. This was my first time hearing that.
Yes, years ago. I've put it in the past, I guess. Sorry to not tell you before.
Oh, well, listen, that story is something that so many people relate to. A lot of times I hear stories of patients going to the hospital and they say one or two things about their doctor, but it's their nurse that they remember.
Right.
They remember how their nurse really made them feel well taken care of.
Absolutely right. I think that's what hit home for me. And yeah, I wanted that. I wanted to be that for someone else.
Yeah.
And you, Lauren?
For me, so it's kind of funny. I've talked to a lot of people, even being and going through nursing school. And a lot of people I've heard a lot of people share a story or a personal story, like you did, Eileen, where they have a certain tie that kind of showed them at some point in their life nursing and connected them to it personally. But I actually didn't have I wanted to be this from when I was younger kind of story. For me, the moment I actually realized that I wanted to be a nurse, I was a junior in college. So I know yours happened in your 20s as well. But throughout my life, I think I struggled a bit with knowing exactly what I wanted to do when I got older. I had many ideas and fun dreams, but it was hard to pinpoint exactly what I wanted to do and what would make me happy. But the one constant was that I wanted to do something to help people. So my junior year of college, I was on a career path trajectory that I was no longer sure fit what I wanted. So late one night when I was stressing about what I wanted to do with my life, I actually took a career quiz online. And funny enough, one of the top answers was nursing for me.
Wow.
Yeah. And until that moment, I don't think it ever actually occurred to me to consider nursing. But that night, again, stressing out, took this career quiz. And when I saw it looking back at me from the screen that night, something clicked. I get to help people and do something intellectually challenging. Sounds like this could be a fit. Because I think I always wanted something that was going to stimulate me intellectually, but also where I could help people, because there was that common theme throughout all these things that I thought of growing up. So after that, I did a deep dive with research into nursing, applied to nursing school, and the rest is history. So that's actually my origin story for how I realized I wanted to be a nurse.
I do remember that just a bit. I don't think I remembered all the details, but I do remember we were taking a prereq class together when you were still on a different track for your other major. But I remember you telling me, and I think some of our other classmates were there, that you had switched to nursing major. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, like we got another one. How rare it was to have someone switch to a nursing major right before it would be time to apply to school, because you already had most of the same prereqs. They were overlapping. But most people were running away from the major. But Lauren was like, nah, bitch, we going in together. We're going to war together.
Exactly. I was like, let's go.
I love that we learn about each other in these episodes even more, because I didn't remember ever hearing about the quiz. Lauren and we both had discussions. We had discussions together regarding nursing because I was already there. And you expressed intrigue and you were asking me questions. And so I know that there was like a bit of a pull for you for it. And I remember thinking to myself, maybe she'll get on the nursing track too. But how funny that the quiz kind of solidified those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why. And sometimes I think it would make me feel a little bit bad when I would hear these deeply personal stories, or I knew since I was a little girl that I wanted to do this. And I was like, they took a career quiz. And it showed up, right? It can sound, I feel like, a little disconnected or maybe not so emotionally connected, but I think I was called to do that quiz for a reason.
Sure.
And seeing it actually there really showed me, oh, these qualities and things that I filled out align with this. And so I ended up having this aha moment, but everybody would have these stories and I was like, oh, I took a quiz.
I love that. How unique.
That's great.
Yeah.
I remember on the first day of nursing school, we all went around and we also shared why we chose the career. And I actually at first wanted to be a vet because y'all, I freaking love animals so much.
Yes, you do.
Especially my two Great Pyrenees. I'm always looking for any opportunity to show them off or give them love. But even here on the property, like all of the different animals that we have and the horse, it just fills my heart. But somewhere along the way, that dream started to fade a bit because I didn't feel super connected to it. I still have that love for animals, but I found myself drawn to something else. And there's one memory that really sticks out to me. It's when my family and I were at my aunt's lake house one summer, and my grandfather had taken a little tumble. He scraped up his knees pretty bad, and everyone started panicking a little. As you can imagine, a family coming home from dinner would. Someone's going to grab ice, someone's saying, oh my God, are you okay? And I just remember being calm in the background, quiet, steady, and almost instinctively knowing what to do. Something you wouldn't expect from a 12-year-old at the time, maybe. So There was something about that moment that just felt really natural for me. Like the caregiver in me came without me even thinking about it. And I'll never forget how grateful my grandfather was and how satisfying it felt to take care of him. And I think that was the first time I felt like that deep sense of purpose or connection to not only taking care of animals, but also people. So let's move on to what were the best and the hardest parts about the job for you guys.
So some of the things that I reflected on was the long hours and how strenuous and rough the job is on your body.
Agreed.
The lack of real compassion and care from the hospital system, treating patients like it's a factory, prioritizing money and how many people are getting in and out instead of the level of care and attention they get. That was definitely always something that bothered me. The toxic work environment. I have talked about it in a previous episode, but in the OR, it was very cliquey and people were very harsh. So that made an already challenging job even more difficult because of all the people things you had to deal with. And then the last thing I have on my list here, I don't want to make too big of a list, but the last thing I put was not being respected as a human being.
Oof.
I've literally lost a patient in the OR, and within 5 minutes, I was being harassed and pressured about why I wasn't back up in the ICU already getting my next patient.
Whoa.
Not even given a moment to take a brief pause and acknowledge my feelings about what happened.
Yeah.
So that for me was one of the huge things. Once, because depending on the area you work in nursing, you're not necessarily always experiencing loss. I know TV shows can make it seem like people are dying all the time, which people do die in hospitals, right? But I think in the OR, Grey's Anatomy, stuff like that, right? It seems like it's every hour, every surgery. But really in the OR, it's pretty rare for someone to die in the OR, actually. It doesn't happen often. So I was working in the OR for probably a year and a half, actually, before I encountered my first death. And so this was actually my first death. Being the nurse, I've witnessed one as a nursing student when I was in the ICU, but this was my first death as a nurse in my OR. And that was how I was treated.
Whoa.
Wow.
So I wasn't even respected as a human being. So that was probably one of my biggest things. But yeah, so those were some of the hard parts that came up for me.
I'm so sorry you went through that. And I'm also sorry that you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that happened too often.
Yeah.
So because I agree with all of the ones that you gave, because I felt every single one of those, I was like, oh, yep, me too. Oh, yep, me too. That was a hard part. I'm going to go with hardest days rather than hardest part for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the hardest days were when the patient load was high and you could never seem to catch up. I hated the feeling of drowning while at the same time not being in control. Or those days where something took a turn left. It may have started off good and you got your flow and you were being organized, but one of your patients started, crashing, whatever it may have been, or one of those family members that's extra difficult and wants you to be their private nurse. It was just those days that you could never get back on the horse and you just felt like you had to suffer through. Those were the hardest for me. I'm sure you guys can relate.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Man, you guys are both punching me in the soul with this. I feel like I'm back at the bedside reflecting on these. One of the toughest for me, I'll leave it at this because you guys pretty much shared everything I would have. It was the moral distress.
Yes.
I don't think I fully understood what that term meant back in nursing school because it was talked about from time to time, like a sprinkle here, a sprinkle there, before we went out into the field. But once I was in it, shift after shift was, like you were saying, Island, busy and I felt overwhelmed. And at that time, the unit I was on was short staffed always. So we were always trying to get extra help from float nurses, from other ICUs, or from travel nurses. And when that wasn't available, I was taking on 3 critically ill patients, or I would have 2 critically ill patients in an open bed and not know what I was going to expect from the emergency department. It could have ended up being 3 really high acuity. Hopefully, you have a good charge nurse who will adjust assignments to give you a little bit more balance, but sometimes that's not always possible because you might have a really sick unit at the time. And there were days that happened, and I would drive home always wondering, did I give them my best? And deep down,
Oh, honey.
I always felt like my patients needed more. And I didn't give that to them. And I'm sitting here, how many years after leaving bedside, and it still punches me in the heart. And that kind of guilt starts to pile up. And I remember thinking something as simple as, this just isn't the level of care I'd want for myself, my parents, my friends, or anyone I love and deeply care about. And that still hurts because I know there's not a lot of change happening. So the only other hard part I hated was night shift, and that isn't as emotionally pulling, but God, I felt like a zombie on those days. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to just pause and thank you, though, for sharing that. That's, oof, I feel it in the pit of my stomach as well, because exactly what you're experiencing may not have been that same exact way. But for me, it actually showed up as frustration. I would get angry with these moments where I was giving my all and it wasn't enough, or someone wanted to add to my plate, meaning management, or adding a policy or adding something else to do, when it's just like, ooh, you're getting me choked up too. Like, I just want to be a loving presence, and you're making that difficult. This system is making that really difficult because I got to make sure that your liability is okay, is intact. And that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah. No, thank you both for sharing, because I think the moral distress, I agree. I think it's one of the biggest things that we have to juggle as nurses. We all got into it because we want to help people, we want to be of service, and we want to provide this level of care that we believe that people deserve. And we're constantly fighting the business, the hospital, and the management in that way, where it's this pull of trying to keep up with all, like you said, their policies or their time frames or whatever it is. And meanwhile, we're just trying to be the nurse we want to be and trying to give the care that we want to give and that we feel these people deserve. But the reality is, most of the time, we can't do it. There literally is not enough time in the day, not enough resources available for us to truly give these patients what we want to be giving them.
And it hurts me, Hannah, that you take on the guilt. I would almost rather you be in my shoes and be mad at them. Don't be mad at yourself.
Yeah, because I think deep down you are such a loving, caring person, Hannah.
You're amazing.
And it does hurt to hear you share that story and hear that you're still carrying so much guilt, because I think we all know in our hearts that you wanted to deliver that it really, in a way, wasn't even in your control, and that you were doing the best that you could do at that time with what you were given.
And I even bet that the patients don't feel the same way that you feel. They probably feel you were going above and beyond.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I hope that's the case. I feel deep down that that's probably true, because I think I might have told you guys this story once, but I had a patient who was in the ICU and the intermediate ICU for a really long time because she was sick, but requiring life support devices. And she was, in and out of needing higher or lower level acuities of care. But she was never quite ready to go to a long-term care facility. So she was in the hospital for a really long time, like I want to say maybe almost a year. And because of her going back and forth, whenever she was lower acuity and not needing so many life support modalities, as a newer nurse, that was usually one of my assignments. When she was less sick, she'd become one of my assignments, and I'd help nurse her back down to intermediate ICU. One weekend, I remember I had off, and for some reason, I had a dream about her, and she came to me in my dream and just smiled at me. She was walking, and she gave me a hug. And I was like, that's so random. But I have been working with her a lot. Maybe she's just on my mind. I came back to find out she had passed away.
Oh,
That was one of the first experiences that I had that made me feel a deeper sense of connection to God and things that I can't explain.
right. The spiritual realm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that was her spirit coming and thanking you.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I gave this lady some serious TLC, guys. She was my buddy.
Aw.
She couldn't speak, but yet she said so much through her eyes.
Oh,
And
that's so beautiful.
you could tell when she was not in the mood to get a dressing change on her sacral wound. She was not having it. But I remember one day we had to do it. It was dressing change day. We gave her some pain medication to try to help. But then I promised her, look, afterwards, I'm going to give you the best hand and arm massage you've ever had because we're going to bathe you at the same time while while your pain is all taken care of. And she just by looking at her eyes, you could see, I don't want to do this, bitch. Please don't.
Oh,
But then afterwards, she almost had like a thank you. You could see that the massage on her hands felt good.
That is so. I would love for you to be my nurse. Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's
That's
so
so
sweet.
sweet.
Beyond sweet. Ugh, Hannah. Don't you dare have this guilt.
I know, you're just so sweet. And I know that for both of you, all of us, I know all of us were that type
Yeah.
of nurse. And that's why it's sad that the way that the system is pushed nurses like us out. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Hannah. That was such a sweet story.
Those were the parts that made it worth it to me. Whenever I had time like that to actually sit and talk with my patients and families or be there for them in that way, like I was for that patient, those moments felt so real and meaningful and made me love my job.
That's definitely one of my best parts list as well. I agree. The juiciest moments
Yep.
were those deep connected conversations with your family and patients.
Yes. That's literally number one on my list was the one-on-one time that we actually get to spend with patients. And even though the hospital doesn't really provide time for that, I always cherish the moments that I did get with them.
Yeah, because nobody wants to be in the hospital. It's one
Right.
of the worst times. They're there for something that a lot of times was unexpected. It put a whole dent into whatever their regular life schedule was, whether that be for the patient or the family. And I don't know, those moments feel sacred almost.
Yeah, they do. And it's almost because they're so few and far between. And then also with you sharing your story, I don't know how to label it, but I guess maybe labeling it as hearing and feeling gratitude from patients. Similarly, I reflected back on moments that maybe seemed small or like something small I was doing, but was really a big deal to them, such as washing their hair or even holding their hand as they went under for anesthesia. And you could just, if it wasn't them verbally showing gratitude, you could see it in their eyes. Like you said, you could feel it in their energy and their presence. And I think that feeling is one of the things that made it worth it and honestly makes you want to keep going.
I feel like since you guys shared a specific moment, I should share one.
Yeah, put it on out there.
Do you have anything that comes to mind?
So this one little girl, she was in a car accident and they wouldn't let her eat. And the family kept asking and the family kept annoying the staff. And so when I took over the patient for my shift, I was told this. Look, they've been told so many times, can't eat yet. We're still waiting on the doctors. I just felt like that's not enough of an explanation. This little girl was maybe 7 or 6, maybe even younger. But so I went in there. I pulled up my phone of an anatomy picture of the organs and I showed her, baby, I'm going to explain to you why you can't eat right now. I know you're hungry and I want to feed you if we can, but it's not safe right now. Let me tell you why. You see this organ? This is called the liver. And your tummy, this is your stomach, this is where the food goes in, right? But there's other organs that help you process and digest your food. It breaks it down, it helps your tummy. And so I said, your seatbelt hurt this whole area. You know how your belly hurts? She said, yeah. I said, well, this one, when we took your blood, we got numbers back that show that this organ, your liver, was hurt. And we need to make sure that it's healing and that it's okay. Once we get numbers, because we just took your blood again, once we get numbers that show that your liver's okay, then it's safe for you to eat again. But we don't want your liver to hurt anymore, do we? And she said, oh, she understood. The family said, thank you. And they shut up. They did not bother us again about the food. They were just not understanding. But to pause and take a moment, have a
Yeah.
teaching moment with your patient.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to take
Oh my
time out of your
gosh.
day, but that was also just a few minutes and can save everyone.
A few minutes, but it sounds like it was profound for them. Because I think it's so easy where people, they're, in the negativity of their day and they're like, oh, this family, they keep complaining. Oh, we've already told them,
that's the burnout nurse
whatever.
type of voice for sure.
Right. Right. And it's so crazy that just you taking a couple minutes to just say why.
Yeah.
It's, and so many times when people can just understand why, it changes everything.
Right. And I think a lot of nurses are guilty of maybe expecting their patients or their families not to understand what you're talking about. And so why even waste the time explaining it and trying to teach them? But we're not even giving them the chance if we don't try.
True.
Yeah. It almost feels, when I'm listening to us, it almost feels just like the parent who would say, because I told you so.
There you go. We talked about that
Yes.
in our other
Right?
episode.
Right? It almost feels like the same energy where the child's going to keep protesting and pushing back because they don't understand. It's the same thing.
Yep. And so those nurses, that's one example of someone being maybe a little bit burned out and not recognizing it. Maybe is, maybe not. I don't know about you, but for me, the biggest signs and symptoms of burnout that I experienced were exhaustion, avoidance and procrastination, and detachment. Like, I was tired all the time, chronically, no matter how much sleep I had or how much caffeine I drank. And even when I did sleep, it felt light and restless. I never woke up recharged. And the second big one with avoidance, I started calling out of work really often, telling myself also when I took PTO or vacation that would fix everything. But it never really helped because the whole time I was just thinking about work and how I so badly did not want to go back. And I also procrastinated a lot on work-related things. Like, for example, one time I remember when I was starting to feel really burned out, I was supposed to be building my portfolio. And as a brand new baby nurse, this is my first portfolio. I feel like that's something I should have been excited about. Putting together all of my certifications, all of the projects I'd helped with on the unit, any patient or coworker shout outs. But I felt so much resistance to that. I didn't even get started because I knew I didn't want to invest in something that I wasn't sure I was going to stay in. So it felt pointless.
Yeah.
And then I was really detached. I was numb and emotionally shut down. And I caught myself mentally checking out during shifts and even outside of work too. So honestly, my friends and family will tell you it was like night and day when I left that job. It was only then, after I left, that they started to see me again. Like I was finally coming back to life.
Right.
I can attest to that. Looking back, I could feel the cloud over you too. And I could feel that dissipate and you shining through with the sunshine that you are once you left.
Wasn't Hannah the last to leave nursing or to leave
Yeah.
at least that first unit? I feel like,
Yeah.
Lauren, you shared that with me. Well, Hannah's having a tough time with her. You know, we were both like, oh, I hope she leaves. Get on our train.
Yes, I was the last to leave. I joined the train.
Toot toot. We're having a good time now. But did you want to share your signs first, Eileen?
Sure, I'll share my top 3. All right, so my symptoms of burnout, my number 1 was the chronic fatigue. Oh gosh, it seemed like no matter what I tried, it just wasn't enough. So I'm right there with you with that one, Hannah. My second one was an increase in irritability. I was getting snippy and snappy with people because I was so tired, even on my off days. Here's one example. My husband would ask me to pick up dinner on my way home from a 12-hour shift. And I would be like, are you freaking kidding me? You want me. And yes, in his mind, it's efficient. You're already driving. You're already in your car. Just go through a fast food place. But I'm like, I would really prefer if you took care of dinner.
Sometimes it's the little things that feel like so much after a shift, right?
You don't want to do anything after a shift. But I didn't have patience. I was snappy with anything, any kind of suggestion where people weren't considering, when's the last time you worked a 12-hour shift? That was what I just worked. Like, get the hell out of my face. So I was cranky. No. So that was my second symptom. Like, okay, I'm snipping and snapping at everybody. I'll say my top third one was picking up bad habits. I wanted the good tasting foods after that shift. I wanted the wine, maybe even the whole bottle tonight. Okay. No. But yeah, I was putting things in my body to just feel better and to cope. And so that was my third sign. I am picking up these bad habits that I know aren't good for me. I'm teaching patients in the hospital to do the opposite, and now I'm becoming a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Well, I can definitely relate to you, ladies, for my 3 as well. I think it's funny because the first one we all mentioned is exhaustion or fatigue of some kind. The first one I had on my list was severe fatigue. I remember on my off days, I was couch ridden. I was just so exhausted that I felt like I couldn't do anything. Even getting up to the bathroom felt like a lot. I would hold it
Same.
till the last minute and then I would get up and go. And sometimes I would look at my peers around me and even other nurses who seemed to be able to do other things and think that something was wrong with me. Why am I so exhausted? Why can't I do something after work? Or on the days that I was off, it felt that I wasn't really off. They say it's just 3 days a week, right? 3 12s. No, you're exhausted the other 4.
Yes, it's a
And then you got to do it again.
I called it like you needed this time to recuperate.
Yes.
Otherwise, you couldn't go back and do it again.
Exactly. And so it just felt like this never ending loop of exhaustion that a shitty ride I couldn't get off of. The next one for me is depression. I actually became depressed working as a nurse in the hospital. With that, I was chronically sad, disconnected, also irritable. That's why I could relate to the disconnected and the irritable that you guys shared. And questioning why I was doing what I was doing. And that one led to my third, which was multiple crying mental breakdowns per week. I was just so overwhelmed all of the time that I didn't even know how to process what was happening to me, what was going on.
Same.
So, yeah, I think those 3, the top 3, because I think there are many signs of burnout, but those were definitely the top 3 for me.
Thanks for sharing that, you guys. I think that'll help listeners see that when you Google burnout, what are the symptoms of burnout? It's kind of also overwhelming. But when you're actually feeling the symptoms, the fatigue is the most common because of the simple definition of what burnout is. And it can almost just put this fog over it. Am I experiencing that or am I not? Or is it just this one shift? You can almost like gaslight yourself in or out of like saying that you have burnout. So, what about while you were still at the bedside, though? Being tired and noticing that you're experiencing these symptoms, did you try anything while you were still at the bedside to try to help? And how did it go?
So I did. I incorporated mindset work and energy work. I affirmed my day is easy. My day is easy. Easy was the word I used. Like, just like Hannah in the Mirror Mirror episode, the episode on body image, you were saying that you would say, I don't get sick. I'm not going to get sick. And even when everyone around you was falling ill, you wouldn't get sick. So if all my coworkers were having a hellish busy day, I would be having an easy one. So I will say that did help for a while. I would be having uncomplicated patients. My flow would be perfect. And I'd see like fires all around me. And I'm like, oh, I can assist. I mean, it's a good day if you're like, oh, I don't have anything going on with my patients. You all right over there? You're looking sweaty. So not only did I try to heal my burnout that way, when I found something that worked, like this energy work stuff, I tried to make it accessible to all nurses and hospital staff. And I even promoted having touch therapy where my integrative energetic medicine cohort would come to the hospital as volunteers. I was rejected. I remember at one point suggesting, I know, right? I wanted it for the patients as well. And I think because of that, I was met with so much red tape. Oh, you're going to be hands-on with the patient as a volunteer? Uh-oh, let's not do that. And so unfortunately, yeah, I remember after I was rejected, I gave up. I felt defeated. I felt like they didn't care. My voice went unheard. So then I believed, they're not open to suggestion. You can only be strong-armed so many times before you have to realize like you can be the change, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be here. Maybe this environment is not ready for that change. So nobody should ever force it. I think I did the right thing by promoting what I was trying to promote. I think it would have been great for the nurses and patients. So I would suggest that people come to terms with not being a good fit when you're not a good fit. Ask yourself, if I'm getting pushback, am I asking the wrong people? And so that was for sure towards the end of my career and helped me out the door.
Wow. It surprises me and it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that you were met with so much red tape because of how critical hospitals can be with letting people in, let alone volunteers, anything that could be perceived as a liability. But hands-on healing touch, it's one of the least invasive techniques
Right.
you can use to help somebody.
Exactly.
And it's highly effective. I heard a beautiful story from one of my clients when I was working as an IV spa nurse. And I came in the room and she was practicing Reiki on herself. I said, "Oh, my friend does that." She said, "I learned how to do it because my mom had cancer. And it was one of the only things that helped decrease her pain. And she tried everything, let me tell you." She said, "Now I do it on myself and I love it. And I wish more people knew about it."
Awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I had some things that worked and I had some things that did not work, but I do. It was nice to have this question. Like, did you try to heal your burnout at bedside? Because it kind of pacified my decision to leave. And like, I did try. Okay. I did try. I didn't just quit. I didn't just give up. So what about you, Lauren? What did you try?
So I started working with Eileen. That was one of the things I tried. I started having sessions with Eileen, our one and only here with us.
Man.
We love you, Eileen.
I love you guys.
And she really helped me start processing what was going on. She really had me start looking at what I wanted and what makes me happy, and helped me cope with the fact that I no longer wanted to be in the hospital. The other things I've tried were meditation. I would actually get to the hospital at least 15 minutes early every single day and do a heart chakra meditation, also by Eileen.
I remember that.
It's such a good one. And I would do that every morning before I went into work. And I do think that this helped ground me and get me into a more loving space every day, but it was definitely not a complete fix. The other thing that I tried was affirmation cards and essential oils. Just as Eileen was saying, she affirmed, it's easy, right? My patient load's easy, it's easy, right? All of that. I would write my main affirmations for helping me stay sane at work on flashcards and keep them in my pocket with a roller bottle of a self-love blend of essential oils that I made. And every time I'd go to the bathroom on shift, I would put on the oil and read my affirmations. And I do think this was also something that helped me maintain a more positive outlook every day and stay sane for as long as I did. And even though these things helped me manage some of the symptoms, there was really nothing I could do to mitigate the burnout I was experiencing except to leave the environment that I was in. I think I knew it was time to leave when I finally realized that no amount of essential oils or meditation was going to change the fact that I wasn't happy and satisfied with my career.
Right. And it almost feels like for both of us, it felt like, or all three of us, it was too late. Like,
Yeah.
if we had started the healing process of burnout or maintained at the very beginning, it may be different, but it felt a little too late.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like you were reading my mind. Stop it. Honestly, it was just too late for me. I didn't even have the energy to try by the time I recognized what was going on. I kept on saying that it was just a shift. It was just the unit I was in. I kept on making excuses for it to try to just keep on chugging along. And I think the idea of putting effort into myself felt like a lost cause because I was already on empty. I didn't have anything left to give to myself, let alone my patients. I was just trying to survive. And so trying to heal anything or do anything else, I just didn't have the capacity for that. I will say I did at least ask for things that I felt like would have served me at that time. And that first thing was being moved to day shift, which, of course, when you're on night shift, there's a list to be moved up to days, which I was a little bit farther down on being a new nurse. But I was hoping that my management would hear me out for the level of burnout that I was experiencing, that maybe there could be some exceptions, or maybe there would be some conversations with the others who were on the list to move to days. And when that wasn't an option, I also tried asking to be switched to part-time or PRN to give myself more breathing room on my off days. But that was also denied because I wasn't experienced enough. I needed to be at 2 years of experience, and I was at 1.5. So
Wow.
I felt like I was in a chokehold with really not any good options, and I was frustrated. I felt like they didn't care about me. And, when I left, that my spot would just be filled with another travel nurse.
Yeah.
So,
Just looking for another warm body.
Yep. So I just kept going until I couldn't anymore. And I felt bad a little bit when I handed in my letter of resignation because they acted shocked. And I was like, why the fuck are you shocked right now?
Right.
Yeah. Are you serious?
Where have you been? This is how much you're not on the unit and up in your office, and you don't know what's happening if you're shocked at my leaving.
You want to leave hell? What the heck?
Did you talk to anybody? That's what she asked me.
Wait,
Bitch, I
explain.
talked to you. Oh my gosh.
Okay, let me, I make it sound a little bit more dramatic than it actually was. The talks were with my manager. My assistant manager was the one there in the morning who I gave the letter to.
Okay.
And she was the one who asked, did you talk to anybody?
But even so, you'd think that assistant manager and manager
Would communicate.
communicate and say, oh, Hannah expressed having a harder time, keep a little eye out or something.
Yes. Right? But even the shock of that, I almost experienced something similar with one of my assistant managers that said, wow, I'm really surprised you're feeling burnout, because I think I expressed it. I was getting burnout at the 3-year mark. And that's late, people. I was thriving for several years. I loved the children's hospital. I loved the children. But she was like, usually burnout happens at year 5. So I'm really surprised that you're early, like that it's hitting you so early.
Gaslight much?
Number one. And number two, it's like, bitch, I've seen so many people leave in less than a year. What are you talking about? Like you're not paying attention to the turnover on this unit?
She was probably quoting some research from like 1996.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. But I think when we all realized it was time to go, we knew it was time to go. And there wasn't really any changing that, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it was still maybe a little bit hard. I know for me, I felt a lot of guilt around leaving my already short-staffed unit. So leaving them in what felt like a sinking ship to just say good luck, that really weighed on me for a little bit. And I also questioned my own strength, like what you were saying, Lauren. What's wrong with me? Like, how come everyone else can power through this if they're doing it? What am I missing? And I also had those sneaky bitch voices in my head again, wondering what my coworkers and even my family and friends would think. Would they see me as weak, selfish, not cut out for it, if they'd be disappointed in me? But once I finally stepped away, it was like a fog lifted and everything kind of changed, but it was still hard.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that for sure. I think we all can.
Yeah. So I experienced all of that, but when I actually left, I got to the point where there wasn't a hardest part. I had all of those thoughts in building it, but when I really was done, so thinking back, it made me realize that's not good. Maybe I needed to leave sooner. I was done before I actually made the decision to leave. And
Mm.
so I saw the turnover. Was, and so my concern about leaving a job too soon subsided because I tried another location only for a few months. But I knew I was replaceable, as you somewhat mentioned earlier, Hannah, and that they would be okay. Those hospitals did not crumble without me. And these managers are very used to doing interview after interview and hiring new people. That's
Yeah.
part of the routine rather than, as we spoke before, adjusting the system to make people want to stay, to encourage longevity in the workplace. They've gotten really used to interviewing and hiring, interviewing and hiring. Let's get that new staff. And so that made it okay for me to leave. And seeing that enough and seeing the new people come in, I was replaceable. I did experience after leaving adjusting to not making money right away because my transition was from nursing to my own business. When you're starting out, it's, step by step there. So there was a lot of learning and setting up of that business, as well as learning to be comfortable on my husband's income. So I had to learn to allow being provided for. I was not used to that, which is perfect for what we're going to talk about in our next episode. I was so in deep when it comes to having to adjust to a masculine environment that I felt uncomfortable in a feminine role like a non-working woman, a woman outside the workforce, that was a hard part of leaving.
Yeah, that's such an important aspect to consider because I think a lot of people have those questions come up when they're thinking about leaving a job. They wonder things like, what would I even do? What would happen
Yes.
to my benefits? Who would
Mhm.
support me? Is it okay for them to support me? And nurses, we're so used to carrying the world on our shoulders that, oh my
Exactly.
gosh, someone else is
Yeah.
willing to do that for me? Are you sure? Are you sure
Yeah.
this is okay?
Is this allowed?
Absolutely. I think I can relate to both of you a little bit of each. I think for me it was a mixture of two main things. Feeling like a failure or quitter or that something was wrong with me because I couldn't stick with it like other people, and also knowing the time, energy, and money investment that I put into this career and feeling like I was letting myself down in some way. So it was really hard to leave, but I think once I did it, I did feel a weight lift, but I also didn't go right from bedside to gone forever. I went from bedside to an aesthetic clinic and then an aesthetic clinic to an IV spa. Then after that, I said sayonara. Um, so I can then at that point relate to what Eileen was saying, where once I left the IV spa, it was fully depending on my husband, becoming a stay-at-home wife. And that was a whole other thing to undertake, which I think I also talked about in some previous episodes. But
Yeah.
it
Identity.
identity, exactly. Leaving this identity we once had and really finally stepping away from that, that is really hard. So not only leaving the feelings of, failure or quitter or whatever that was, and knowing the, like I said, the time and money and energy investment into getting a nursing degree, because I still pay him for that. Well, now my husband's still paying for that.
Right?
But yeah, and then just along with it, it is a challenge too. Like you said, Hannah, we're holding the world on our shoulders. We are the one that so many people depend on, that when that role flips and now we have to depend on someone else, it's like, are you sure? You don't mind? I'm not a burden. So yeah.
The way that you describe the investment into nursing and everything you had up to that point before you became burned out, it reminds me of when people use that same mentality of, I invested so much time into this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I loved them so much, but it's not working. But I've spent so much time with them. I know them better than anyone else I know. And even if it is the most toxic relationship in the world, they'll hang on to that sometimes,
Wow.
trying
Yeah.
to push through the relationship because they invested so much, even if it's like slowly killing them.
That's a good point.
Oh yeah. It really is. That's definitely a good segue for future topics.
Mhm.
More awesome podcast episodes to come.
Yes.
If you recognize yourself in any part of our stories, we feel you, we hear you, and we see you. So if you just listened to all of this and you've been nodding your head the whole time, first off, good. That's actually great news because awareness is a really powerful starting point. You can't shift what you don't even see. But now the big question is, how do we stop burnout in its tracks? Or better yet, prevent it altogether? Like Eileen was saying, it's almost like we started the healing process too late. And this is a problem that many nurses and other people experience. Burnout is not a unique story. And honestly, I'm still exploring how we stop burnout in its tracks. But after coaching clients, nurses, and non nurses alike, the two most powerful tools I've seen for preventing and healing burnout are rest and support. Simple, yes, but often overlooked. Let me explain. The first is rest, like actual rest. Burnout, by definition, is a physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. So, first, challenge the habit of just powering through. Give yourself true rest, not just sleep, but mental and emotional rest too. Use your PTO, spend your off days doing things that restore your energy, not suck it right back away, and say no to things that don't serve you. No is a very uncomfortable word for us nurses.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
And if rest feels foreign or uncomfortable, you're not alone. A lot of us can feel guilty for resting, and especially if you're used to being on all the time. But I'm here to remind you that rest is essential and productive. So now let's talk about what happens when you try to rest, but you can't turn off, quote unquote, turn off. That's when rest turns into Netflix binges, doom scrolling, or late night Amazon shopping sprees. If that's you, maybe just start by trying one of these two things. Just ideas. There's plenty of options out there that help burn out, but presence practices. Explore guided breath work, progressive muscle relaxation, non-sleep deep rest is a new one I've heard of recently, or even just mindfulness meditations. There are tons and tons of beginner-friendly resources online. I also have a little extra at the end of our podcast to hopefully make you laugh a little, especially if you're someone who struggles to turn off. Keep listening after the outro music to hear it. And another thing you can try is a digital detox. Start small, maybe a day with no social media, no news, no streaming, no gaming. Turn off your push notifications and delete your tempting apps. We use our phones so much more than we realize, and it uses a lot of our mental and emotional energy. So see if you notice a shift. And the second point I have is support, the real kind. I invite you to ask yourself, who makes you feel truly seen, safe, and supported? Who actually listens, encourages, or holds space for you when things get hard? Whether that's a friend, a therapist, a coworker, a coach, or a family member, your support system matters. Research shows that the strength of our close relationships is one of the biggest predictors of our resilience. So tend to those connections like a garden. Water the ones that matter before you're in crisis and everything is all dried up. And if you're anything like me or most of my clients, you might be rolling your eyes right now thinking, duh, Hannah, I already know what I should be doing to feel better, but isn't there some secret shortcut to fast track my healing? The answer is no, unless you're willing to quit everything, rent out your home, start a business you love, work a part-time remote job, and move to the mountains in Dominican Republic with me. But seriously, wellness does not have to be complicated. Our fast-paced culture has a way of making rest, joy, and presence feel out of reach. But the truth is, healing often happens when we slow down and return to the basics. Just being can be more powerful than we give it credit for. If you're in burnout, it's not always about doing more. It's not always about doing more meditations and affirmations with the oil rollers in the bathroom in your free time. Those things only go so far. And let's be real, it takes more fuel to do more. Something we're already running low on. So sometimes it's more about doing less and getting really honest about what's just not working anymore. Which brings me to a question I'd love to ask both of you. What would you say to a nurse or anyone experiencing deep burnout who's maybe a little hesitant to make a change?
I would say to really take a moment to sit with yourself, to really drown out all the other noise, expectations, and opinions around you, and ask yourself if you're happy. Ask yourself if you're living a life that feels aligned with your values. And also ask yourself, what's the cost of not making a change? And after reflecting on these, I would encourage you to take whatever step feels right in your heart, no matter how scary it might feel. The biggest transformations often happen from the biggest and scariest decisions, don't we all know? But your happiness and life satisfaction is so worth it, and you can and deserve to be happy and fulfilled. And I think all three of us are a testament to that, yeah, it's scary, but take the big step, take the plunge, move to the mountains of Dominican Republic. Whatever it is, take that plunge because we only have this one life. So it's absolutely worth it.
That's great advice.
Thanks.
I would tell him or her that a question to ask yourself is, what's it going to take for me to feel comfortable and ready to leave? If you're there, you already know that's the change that needs to be made. What's it going to take for me to feel ready and comfortable to leave? Maybe you need a solid game plan. Maybe you need another job secured and in line before leaving this one. But above all, don't think you need someone's permission to leave. I remember asking everyone else's opinion and wanting to sift through all their answers until I found one that made me feel secure enough in myself to make the decision that was best for me. It's okay to have uncertainty, but not about who you are. You're an amazing individual that's capable of creating what he or she wants in his or her life. That includes your career, a space that brings you purpose, and your overall work environment. The pressures from the outside are only given power by how you're thinking about those outside influences. So you can say to yourself, I'm top priority here. My well-being is my primary focus. Any and all inconveniences that my leaving may bring to my workplace, boss, coworkers are not my concern, and I trust that they will be resolved quickly and for the better. May this decision be the best for everyone involved. The last thing I would say is don't wait to feel 100% comfortable. That may never come.
Mhm.
As long as you're comfortable in your own power and capabilities to find a job that better fits you, and as long as you're confident in your ability to assess your needs and take steps towards what you deserve, then the world is your oyster. Make those moves to leave while saying wonderful things to yourself and about yourself. Be your greatest cheerleader. And when those nagging thoughts pop in about why you should not do what's best for you, remind yourself that you can decide how good it's going to get. Put that in your words, in your energy, and your self-talk, and things will go better than you expect.
You guys are about to be playing on repeat in somebody's headphones like every day before their shift.
Yay!
And on the other hand, what advice would you give to a brand new baby nurse?
Run! No. Okay.
Hey,
maybe
you're allowed to be real, Lauren. It's okay.
I would say maybe partly kidding, but I would encourage anyone who does feel passionate about nursing and feels that it is aligned with what they want to make sure that they have a strong sense of their own morals and values before going into the field, and also get very comfortable with setting boundaries. The more that you can stick true to who you are and advocate for yourself and protect your own energy, the easier it will be. So that, besides running, that would be my advice if you want to stick around.
I love that.
So I don't think
Run, Florence!
Run, Forrest, run!
Run, Florence, run!
Florence, run, Florence. I love it.
Perfect.
Oh, that was a good one. That was good. The comedian award goes to us today in this episode.
Oh, you guys just wait.
Oh, man.
Ooh, alrighty.
So my advice to a brand new baby nurse would be, don't think that this can't be you. I remember being told, or rather warned, about nurse burnout. So this was in nursing school. I was given tips and suggestions. I was told, make sure you get enough sleep, make sure you drink enough water, make sure you eat right and take care of yourself. I was given all the right advice. So I went in thinking, oh, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to need to worry about nurse burnout. Like, I know what to do. But in truth, it crept up on me. For some people, burnout may hit them like a ton of bricks, but mine was gradual. So I think a new nurse needs to know that it can be sneaky and creep up on you. Don't ignore your body, the aches and pains, and above all, your level of fulfillment. Your emotional well-being and mental state is priority. My second piece of advice would be to not prioritize working extra hard because you're the new kid on the block. You're the new nurse on the unit. A new nurse may not want to rock the boat or speak up for themselves because they're trying to look good for this new job they landed. They want to impress the boss, their fellow nurses, their patients and family even. But at what cost? Being new, that's what makes you vulnerable and susceptible to being taken advantage of. So remember, it's okay to put your foot down and to say you're not available to help if you're not, and to make your health a priority.
Mic
Yeah.
drop
Yes.
to both of what you guys both said. Your first point was going to be my advice, Eileen, because I remember graduating nursing school, having many conversations with one teacher, one professor in particular. We talked about burnout and we talked about self-care and the journaling and, things that might help. The stuff that really helps you, like the boundaries, protecting your energy, knowing
Yes.
who you are and what you value, how to stand up for yourself, how to stand up for your patients, all of that stuff, I wasn't even really thinking about. I just didn't think that that was going to be a problem for me.
Same.
Yeah.
I got the spirit of nursing in me. I was like, no, it's going to be fine.
Florence Nightingale is going to be by my side in spirit. It's going to be great.
Exactly. I'm glad, Eileen, you said that first point too, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, that's not going to be me. I'm going to be fine. What are they talking about?
Right. That's other people, not this nurse.
Exactly.
So, although we no longer work at the bedside, our background in nursing definitely plays a huge role in the work that we do now as coaches. The ways that we connect with patients is so easily applicable to what we do when we work with clients. And I think it makes us really unique in the world of coaches and healers. I know our backgrounds in nursing is woven into everything from how we were taught to hold space for patients and their families in their most raw and vulnerable, life altering moments. We hold that for our clients too when we're coaching them. That kind of witnessing changes you and it deepens your compassion, it sharpens your intuition, and it grounds you in service. As coaches, I feel we bring that same energy to this work: presence, listening deeply, curiosity, and noticing what isn't being said. We are trained to critically think, assess, and treat not just symptoms, but also zoom out and look at the big picture to identify the root cause. We also know our limits and when it's time to refer someone to their doctor or therapist. We can read people like nobody's business. We can feel when someone's struggling, even if they're smiling through it. And we know how to sit with discomfort without needing to fix it right away. I think the difference in nursing is I used my stethoscope to listen to heartbeats, and now I help people listen to their own. We all help people listen to their own.
I love that.
I love that. Jinx. I think we both were like, I love that. That was so beautifully said, Hannah. And I think really does just speak to, although nursing as a career doesn't resonate with us anymore, all of the skills and life experience that we've learned as nurses that we get to now bring in to coaching with us and helping people in the way the three of us truly want to help people. And I agree, sitting with people at the hardest times of their life and in that discomfort, it's like I said, everything you said, you just said so beautifully. And I think as nurses, we have this deep care for people that's so deeply rooted in who we are. And so I think it just adds an even deeper layer of compassion to who we are as coaches. I think all coaches are compassionate, but I think having our history, our past in nursing just gives us an even deeper layer to that. And like you said, to see even deeper into what's going on, but also even having the medical knowledge as well to potentially pick out things that might be impacting the person that could be medical related. So I think have always said that I don't regret the path that I went down. I'm always grateful for all the things that I learned and the experiences that I had. And I look forward to even just seeing how many ways my experience and knowledge in nursing continues to unfold into my coaching journey.
Beautiful. I've agreed with everything you both have said so far. I will add that as nurses, what sets us apart is that we know what doctors will say. And that includes, we've had psychiatry and other different areas involved where we may know what a typical counselor may say, what they would prescribe. And therefore, we can steer you in a direction where you've not been before or on something you've not heard about. The tunnel vision of hospitals makes our coaching very expansive because we've experienced that tunnel vision. We are branching out. We are even more holistic than the foundation of nursing. So that too sets us apart. And lastly, as Lauren put it, being there for someone in these difficult times, we've heard so many stories that yours probably isn't going to faze us in the sense that
Same thing with naked bodies.
yes, and talking about poop while you eat, unfazed.
Mm-hmm. or wounds or nasty things, and we're just eating lunch, no big deal.
But to close my final point, the not phasing us in the sense that you may be thinking right now, what I'm going through, I'm not savable, or this can't be fixed, or no coach is going to be able to help me. Honeys and bunnies, we've heard it all. And so we never want our clients to feel that way. You're savable, we promise, and we're here.
Yes. Mic drop again.
I keep having all these mic drop kind of endings to my speaking today.
Gosh, you nailed the Price is Right. Your mic dropping.
This girl is on fire. When I was in the thick of burnout, I found myself Googling burnout symptoms more times than I can count. And every time I saw the lists and the articles, I questioned it. Were they writing journal entries after following me a day in my life? But somehow I still wouldn't acknowledge that I was burned out. And that is the irony. We can define burnout. We can list all of the symptoms. We can even spot it a mile away in someone else. But when it comes to ourselves, we might miss it, we might deny it, or we might try to normalize it. Most nurses I've met or interviewed didn't realize they were burned out until it was too late. Just like us. And it wasn't until months or even a year after they left the environment that broke them, it's only then that they say, wow, I was super burned out. I just didn't know how bad it was at that time. And I don't know about y'all, but for me, I am so good at taking care of others. It's second nature.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to taking care of myself, it's like I go completely blind.
Yep.
And if I do catch on, I get stubborn.
How so? What do you mean?
So, what I mean is, I get into those mindsets. I'll tell myself anything just to push through.
Okay.
I will try to do everything except admit that something's wrong. I'll tell myself it's just a hard season, that if I don't do it, no one will, that good nurses don't complain, and I'm a good nurse, and that it's just part of the job. Other people have it worse. Rest is lazy. I just need a nap or a vacation. But burnout is not fixed by just a weekend away. I think we know that. Vacations, like I was saying earlier, I was worried about coming back to work. I couldn't even fully relax. It's about depletion. Burnout is when that light inside you dims and you forget what it feels like to shine. It's not just physical, it's mental, emotional, and spiritual. And healing does not make you weak. It makes you unstoppable. Thank you so much for coming along with us today. We hope you loved this episode and found something meaningful in the stories we shared. If it resonated with you, send it to someone you love, especially if they're a nurse or someone navigating burnout. And hey, if that someone is you, this is kind of my jam. You don't have to go through it alone. Head to the link in the episode description to connect with me on Instagram or to book a session directly. I'd love to support you. And next week, get ready to peel back the layers with us in our episode called From Stubble to Softness. You might be wondering, what does that even mean? But this goes way deeper than facial hair. This episode is going to be all about masculine and feminine energy, the healthy expressions, the toxic patterns, and how it shows up in work culture, as well as the pressure that society puts on us to fit in a mold we never signed up for. Have you ever felt like you had to be the strong one all of the time? Or maybe you have been told to tone it down, man up, or smile more. Get ready for a juicy conversation where we explore how these energies play out in real life and how reclaiming your own balance could change everything. Trust me, this episode is not about gender. It's about energy. And it might just help you see yourself and others in a totally new light. We drop new episodes every Wednesday, and so look out for this one next week. Until then, keep growing, keep glowing, and always trust in your own bestie perspective. And now, as promised, for those of you who struggle to turn off, I have a little something for you. I've had to re-record this a few times because me and the girls were laughing way too much about this the first read through. So, here we go. If you or someone you love finds themselves resting from burnout and have nothing to do, you may be at risk for a common condition known as unstructured free time syndrome. Symptoms may include, but are not limited to, mild to severe boredom, spontaneous pacing, existential spirals, sudden urges to rearrange furniture, and that all too familiar sensation of ants in your pants. Without proper intervention, unstructured free time may escalate into excessive Netflix binges, prolonged doom scrolling, or impulsive online shopping sprees you'll later blame on Mercury retrograde. Other side effects may include overanalyzing your entire life, talking to yourself and possibly answering back, and feeling personally attacked by motivational quotes. But don't worry, help is available. Ask your higher self if intentional rest might be right for you. Unlike doom scrolling, intentional rest is non-habit forming and has been shown to restore joy, presence, and your will to wear real pants again. Intentional rest, because doing nothing doesn't mean you have to lose your fucking mind.
I love it.
Oh, that's so good.